hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it to. I'm Bushka on Blitz, and I'm back today with another of the how to get to 60% win rate, or how to turn blue, or how to get the numbers that make you happy at night and get your socks rolling up and down. It's neither here nor there. For me, it's not a big deal. But for a lot of people, that's a question that I get asked all the time. And there's not one button you can just go and press. So I've got some broad brushstrokes theories that I've already gone through with the scent one a couple of days back, the no YOLO, all that kind of thing. And I want to talk about some other things. Namely, you'll get to understand as you're going along a couple of basic concepts. And I'm going to be using heavy tanks for for this video. I'm going to show you one particular situation with the VK, which I want to use to... It's a really simple concept. It's about the angles of armor. And I'm going to show you that. And this is something that can win games. And it can make your armor profile absolutely impervious if you know how to do it correctly. And it's one of the reasons why I like to use gun depression tanks. And I'll get to that in just a tick. And then I'm going to show you some IS4 stuff, and I'm going to relate it all back to the main points of this video. And there's only going to be 2 or 3 big things that I'm going to talk about, so it's no big deal. Sit back, relax, and we'll move forward. You can see here I'm with GT Hawk, another one of the patrons. In the next video I'm with Beaver Boxer, another one of the patrons. And we're just rolling about the traps on Castilla. We've had a great little plan here. GT goes caps A, and I spoil C so that we get a nice lead on points. We don't let them cap, and then we win it that way. And that's exactly how it went. But that's a T57 heavy. What about a big armor profile heavy? Now, one of the most important things of being a good player is not actually anything to do with the way you press the buttons or the way you drive the tank. Well, it is to do with the way you drive the tank, but it's more about the information you have in your head. You need to know the basics of the tanks that you're going up against. I can tell you that the IS-7 has APCR as a premium ammunition. It's nigh on impenetrable hull down apart from small gaps either side of the gun, and even then it can be difficult. And I know that the VK that I'm driving here has incredible armor. And I want to maximize that armor in a tier 10 game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a little bit higher up the hill here. It might be easier down the bottom to get the gun depression down, but I'm going up the hill a little bit further. Now that might seem counterintuitive. Why would I do that? I'm going to talk to you about armor angles. Basically, when I'm like this, they still can't see the bottom of my plate. They can't see the lower glacis of the tank. All they can see is my really strong upper plate. And because, and you'll see that object, if I was on the same level as him, his armor profile would be a hell of a lot stronger, but I'm not. I'm above him. And this is why it's important. This is how the object is looking at me. You can see the armor is very, very steep. And because his shot is coming up, as it hits my upper plate, the angle is far too great and it bounces up into the air because it quite simply cannot pen. The angle is too acute and the effective armor is too strong. Now, if I'm above him, and you can see there, I am now quite considerably above him in terms of altitude, I am firing down and his angled armor is actually flattened out. And you're going to see this IS-8 in a second pull out to the right. And you can see the pike nose is exactly the same thing. The pike nose is meant to be pointed at you. It's pointed, it maximizes the armor. When you come out on the side, it flattens that effective armor. And if you can get in a position where enemies have to come out and flatten their armor to come out, you will get a lot more shots. Look at this IS-8. He's pushing out. Look at all the green there on his pike nose because it's flat. And look at how hard it is to pen this big monstrous beast, the VK4502B. I love it. And it's one of the reasons why tanks like the FV4202, the M46 Patton and stuff can actually bounce shots. If you get on a hill above the enemy and you make them fire up at you from short distances, you will find that you will bounce an awful lot of shots. And you want to know a tank that is really good at it? The M48A1 Patton. The new turret particularly, if you get that thing above the enemy, you will bounce shots all day long. So learn to angle the armor correctly on flat ground, but take advantage of hills. We fight for hills, not holes, and there's a reason for that. you maximize your armor. If someone is shooting up at a sloped armor plate, they've got no chance of penning. If you're shooting down at armor, you have a lot better chance at penning. Now, this is a very simple situation. You'll see, and this is also the winner of the longest tunnel in the history of the game. And I've got to tell you, this happens to me sometimes. That T57 Heavy there will tunnel me the entire game, and he will never take his gun off me. I'm side-scraping. Side-scraping is really, really simple. And I've mentioned this in about 6 other videos, but this is a really, really simple way of looking at it. I'm going to slow this down again, just for those of you, I know pretty much everyone else understands how this works, but I'm going to slow it down again just so everyone that doesn't gets an idea. Side-scraping is pretty simple when you actually practice it, and this is a really it's a good visual aid here. I'm going to get my IS-4, which has an exceptionally strong armor profile, one of the most strongly armored tanks in the entire game. And I am going to align the right-hand side of my IS-4 to the right-hand side of the building in front of me. Now, you can do this on a rock. You can do this on a carcass of a dead tank. You can do it on a flock of seagulls for all I care. What you need to understand is that when you do it, you don't expose the lower glacis of your tank at the front. Now, a lot of people will do this offensively and will angle out too far and pull back too far to get the shot, and it will expose the weak points of their tank. Once you get a little bit more experience, you'll do that, where you drive just back far enough that you show a bit of leg, and the T57 Heavy gets all excited and actually puts one to where he thinks you might go, and you bounce the shot. Now, if he wasn't an auto loader, I could have pulled back quite comfortably there and got a shot into him. As it was, I'm still jiggling and wiggling and trying to get another shot out of him. But he is actually the king of tunnelers and will not stop tunneling there. In fact, he will not stop tunneling me the entire game. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. So we've gone through some pretty simple stuff. Armor angles, which obviously important. If you're above someone, you're going to be more likely to pen them, specifically if you have a strong turret or a turret that can create some sharp angles. But what about when you're in the open field? Well, if you've got a rock or a building like I do to side scrape off, you can see this poor old E100 is forced to push up on me to actually get a shot. And even then, I'm so tightly hugged into this building that he's not getting an easy shot. And he's now taken a bunch of damage from me. I've had nothing but damage pouring into him. I'm going to take one shot because I over-angle here. Remember I talked about you don't pull out too far? If you pull out too far, they can hit the lower glacis or the corner. That's exactly what happens there. So you need to find bits of cover like that. And you also need to have the patience. Heavy tanking, so much of it is about set engagements. And so often the loser in a heavy tanking battle is the guy that leaves the safety of his strong point for apparently no reason to push up and do damage, like that E100. And he had to cross only about 30 or 40 meters ground to get to me, and he paid an enormous price for it. It basically took his gun out of the game for all intents and purposes. What I didn't do was push forward on the E100 and try to get the kill. You cannot YOLO. I know I said that last time, but you have to have patience in this game. You also have to have map awareness, and I said that last time as well. Now, we talked about elevation. This is a great armor profile. You saw how tough it was for the E100 to penetrate it. You can see those guys above me. It doesn't make any difference to them. They are able to penetrate my armor profile simply because they are so high up. They're probably using premium rounds, but that's neither here nor there. What they are doing, though, is shooting down onto sloped armor, which is now flat armor. The IS-4's biggest asset with its armor is, in fact, not the thickness, but the slope. The slope of the armor is what really makes it such a tough hombre. And when they do this, this IS-7 is doing a great job, by the way. Him and I just hold this line here and smack the pants out of the rest of these reds. I'm also going to preach to you a little bit about map awareness and situational awareness, and that will all come with you. But you can see I can't pull too far down the hill. The reason is if I slide down the hill, I leave the IS-7 on his own, and that would be a disaster. But I've got to kill that IS-7, so I'm just edging, and there we go. And then our IS-7 does the business up there. Remember that T-57 Heavy? Guess where he is? He's still tunneling me. This happens sometimes when people know me in a game. They just basically will do everything they can to hit me, and hats off to them, because I'm basically there to be hit. He's still there. I'm sliding out. I'm side scraping. I'm angling out, just checking to see if he's awake. He's dropped off his perch, but he's back. There he is, and he fires and just gets a track because we are really well angled. If you're in a heavy tank, you've got to learn to do this. You've got to learn to exploit angles. You've got to learn to hold fixed, strong positions in close engagements. You've got to learn that high ground is usually better than low ground. I'm sure there are examples where it's not, and that's a horrible shot, but I think I've done all the work, and I apologise, Stephen Gerard 3399, because you shouldn't have died there. That was my fault for just being a clown. I'm going to show you one more video where I use the IS-4 in a completely different engagement. I'm on Canyon. I'm going to drive all the way around Canyon and push really hard. And the enemy makes a big mistake. They have not taken any ground. They're camping. And that allows us to squeeze them in a corner. And this 215B that is up here is going to get triple tapped by the IS-7, the E50M, and myself. Now, we've pushed pretty bloody hard here. But once you get to a strong position, you need to learn to work your angles. Now, it's preaching about side scraping and angling. But if you can master this, if you can constantly make the shots that the enemy are taking at you non-existent penetration chances or very slim penetration chances, then you will just do so much better in this game. You'll see that E100, tiny little window, all he has to hit me, and I had a tiny little window to hit him, got him. He's now one shot down on me, and I am pulled back. There is nothing he can do to get one into me now, short of exposing himself to a tremendous amount of incoming fire. So I'm going to go back, I've reset the camo, and I do exactly the same thing. He pushed into a really bad position. Here comes an IS-7. I'm going to angle up, give him a tough shot, turn back into the hill, and I'm going to side scrape out so that even if he does look at me, all he is going to see is a freaking steep angle. Okay, that was today's lesson. Are you getting me? The angles. And the E100 is finally doing it. He is hugging that rock like there is no tomorrow. But he doesn't have the hit points left. Anyone with enough hit points left now can push up on that E100 and absolutely spanking. Now, it's not all his fault. He is a very large tank, and I have a huge negative against massive tanks because they actually negate the best rule of camouflage, which is if you can't be seen, you can't be hit. And again, E100, look at me, I will take my first shot. The next shot will come from me angling out severely, straight into his drive wheel, miss it, get his engine, set him on fire, which will work even better. Look what we're doing, we're angling and side scraping again. I mean, these are the simple rules of the game. If you want to get to 60%, you can do this in a KV-1. You can do it in a T-150. You can do it in a Matilda. You can do it in any and all tanks. A flat angle can be an auto bounce, and an auto bounce won't care whether you have the penetration values or not. You've got to learn to side scrape, you've got to learn to angle, and you've got to learn about other tanks, their weaknesses and strengths. That's today's 60% win rate chat. I know grills do not like HE. I know I have a lot of HE and I've got a lot of hit points left. I've got adrenaline, and I don't really have to care whether he hits me a couple of times or not, because he is simply just not strong enough. Ta-ta, thank you very much. Glad you guys are watching. The last one seemed to be pretty successful. It had about 10,000 views in the first 24 hours, so I hope this one goes as well. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Until next time, look after your families and stay safe on the battlefield.